I went to visit my sister and saw my husband there. My hands shook as I watched them through the window, laughing together like I didn't exist. Everything I believed was a lie. My name is Rebecca Chen, and I'm a dental hygienist in Portland. I thought I had the perfect marriage and the perfect sister. I was so wrong. The surprise visit. I woke up Thursday morning with the sun streaming through my bedroom window and a smile on my face. It was my day off from the dental clinic, and I had decided to do something nice for Maya. My little sister had been stressed lately with her new job, and I wanted to cheer her up. I spent the whole morning baking her favorite chocolate chip cookies, the same recipe our grandmother used to make when we were kids. The kitchen smelled like warmth and love as I pulled the last batch from the oven. I packed them carefully in my wicker basket, the one with the blue ribbon tied around the handle. Maya would love this surprise. We hadn't seen each other in almost 2 weeks, which was unusual for us. Growing up, we'd been inseparable. She was only 2 years younger than me, and we'd shared everything: clothes, secrets, dreams. I grabbed my keys and headed out to my car, humming along to the radio as I drove across Portland. The traffic was light for a Thursday afternoon, and I found myself thinking about our childhood. I remembered the time Maya fell off her bike and scraped her knee, and I'd carried her all the way home on my back. I remembered our matching Halloween costumes and late-night talks about boys and the future. When I pulled up to her apartment complex, I felt that familiar warmth in my chest. Maya lived in a nice building downtown, just 20 minutes from the house I shared with Daniel. I parked on the street and grabbed my basket, practically skipping toward the entrance. The cookies were still warm, and I knew she'd be so happy to see me. I climbed the stairs to the second floor, my heart light and full of sisterly love. Her apartment was at the end of the hall, number 2B. As I approached her door, I noticed something that made me pause. There was a car in the guest parking spot right below her window. A silver Toyota Camry. My stomach did a strange flip. That car looked exactly like Daniel's, but that couldn't be right. Daniel was at work. He'd kissed me goodbye this morning and told me he had back-to-back meetings all day. I shook my head and laughed at myself. Lots of people drove silver Camrys. I was being silly. Still, something made me walk to the window before knocking. Maya's living room curtains were partially open, just enough to see inside. I leaned close, holding my basket, excited to see her smile when I knocked. Then I froze completely. My entire body turned to ice. Through that window, I saw my husband Daniel sitting on Maya's couch in his work clothes, the blue button-down shirt I'd ironed for him this morning. And next to him, laughing and smiling like she didn't have a care in the world, was my sister. The window's truth. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I just stood there staring through that window like I was watching a movie, except this movie was my life falling apart in real time. Daniel sat on Maya's cream-colored couch, the one she'd asked me to help her pick out last year. His jacket was off, draped over the armrest like he'd been there for a while. Like he was comfortable. Like he belonged there. Maya sat close to him, too close. The kind of close that made my stomach turn over and my heart start pounding in my ears. They were sharing a bottle of wine, red wine in 2 glasses, sitting on her coffee table. I watched Maya pour more into Daniel's glass, and he smiled at her. Not the polite smile he gave to strangers or coworkers. The real smile. The one I thought was just for me. I wanted to look away. I wanted to run, but I couldn't stop watching. Maya said something I couldn't hear through the glass, and she touched his arm. Her fingers lingered there on his sleeve, and she leaned close to whisper something in his ear. My sister was whispering secrets to my husband. The 2 people I loved most in the world were sitting together in her apartment on a Thursday afternoon, drinking wine and touching each other like I didn't exist. Daniel laughed, really laughed, and then he did something that made my knees weak. He reached up and gently pushed her hair behind her ear. It was such a tender gesture, so intimate and soft. The way you touch someone you care about, the way you touch someone you love. The basket slipped from my hands. I heard the wicker hit the concrete walkway with a dull thud, heard the cookies scatter and break apart. But I was already moving, already running back down the stairs. My vision blurred with tears. I didn't even know I was crying. I stumbled to my car and fumbled with my keys, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get the door open. Once inside, I gripped the steering wheel and tried to make sense of what I'd just seen. This couldn't be real. There had to be an explanation. Maybe they were planning a surprise for me. Maybe Daniel was helping Maya with something. But even as I tried to convince myself, I knew the truth. The way they looked at each other, the wine, the touching, the hair behind the ear. My husband and my sister were having an affair. I started the car and drove away before they could see me, before they could come outside and find me broken and destroyed on their doorstep. I drove with tears streaming down my face, not even sure where I was going, just knowing I couldn't stay there another second. Everything I believed about my life, my marriage, my family, all of it was a lie. The evidence I ignored. I drove home on autopilot, barely seeing the road through my tears. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I just sat there in my car, unable to move, unable to think straight. How long had this been going on? How could I have been so blind? Then the memories started flooding back, one after another, like a dam had broken in my mind. All those little things I'd noticed but explained away. All those signs I'd ignored because I trusted them, because I loved them. Daniel's late nights at the office. He'd been coming home later and later over the past few months, always with a tired smile and a story about some project or client meeting. I'd felt sorry for him, working so hard. I'd made him dinner and rubbed his shoulders and told him I was proud of him. What a fool I'd been. And Maya, my sweet little sister who used to call me every day. Lately, she'd been canceling our plans. "I'm swamped with work," she'd say. "Can we reschedule?" I'd understood. I'd been patient. I'd told her we'd get together soon. I never imagined she was canceling because she was with him. More memories came rushing back. That woman's earring I'd found in Daniel's car 3 weeks ago. A small silver hoop with a tiny pearl. I'd asked him about it, and he'd shrugged and said maybe one of his coworkers had left it after carpooling to lunch. I'd believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was my husband. He'd never lied to me before, except he had. And I suddenly realized exactly whose earring that was. Mom's birthday dinner last month. I'd admired Maya's new earrings, silver hoops with tiny pearls. She'd smiled and said they were a gift from someone special. I'd teased her about having a secret boyfriend. She just laughed and changed the subject. Oh God. The earring in Daniel's car was hers. She'd been in his car. She'd been with him. I started crying harder, my whole body shaking with sobs. How many times had they been together? How many lies had they told me? How many times had I smiled and hugged them and told them I loved them while they were sneaking around behind my back? I thought about all the family dinners where the three of us had sat together, all the holidays, all the times Daniel and I had gone to Maya's apartment for game night or movies. Had they been looking at each other that whole time, sharing secret smiles, counting down the minutes until they could be alone again? My phone buzzed with a text. It was Maya. "Hey sis, miss you. Want to grab coffee this weekend?" I stared at those words until they blurred. The casual lies, the fake sisterly love, the betrayal hidden behind smiley faces and exclamation points. I sat in my driveway and cried until my throat burned raw and my eyes were swollen shut. I cried for my marriage. I cried for my sister. I cried for the life I thought I had, the life that turned out to be nothing but lies and broken promises. Playing the fool, I don't know how long I sat in that car. Eventually, my tears dried up and a strange calm settled over me. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. My eyes were red and puffy. My face was blotchy. I looked like exactly what I was, a woman whose world had just shattered into a million pieces. But I couldn't let Daniel see me like this. Not yet. Not until I figured out what to do. I went inside and washed my face with cold water. I fixed my makeup. I changed into fresh clothes. By the time I heard Daniel's key in the lock 2 hours later, I looked almost normal on the outside. Inside, my heart had turned to stone. "Hey, babe," Daniel called out as he walked through the door. He looked the same as always. Handsome, tired from work, that easy smile on his face. The smile of someone who thought he was getting away with something. "How was your day off?" I walked into my house and pretended everything was normal when Daniel came home. "It was good," I said, forcing my voice to sound light and casual. "Just relaxed. Did some baking." "Smells great in here," he said, loosening his tie. He kissed my cheek, and I had to fight not to flinch away from him. Those same lips had probably kissed my sister today. Maybe an hour ago, maybe right before he drove home to me. I cooked dinner while he told me lies about his day at the office. He sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through his phone and talking about some meeting that probably never happened. He complained about his boss, made jokes about a coworker, asked me about my plans for the weekend. Every word out of his mouth was poison disguised as normal conversation. "The Hendersons invited us to their barbecue on Saturday," I said, chopping vegetables with steady hands, even though I wanted to scream. "Should I tell them we'll be there?" Sure, sounds good, Daniel said, not even looking up from his phone. I smiled and nodded while my heart turned to stone inside my chest. I wondered if he was texting her right now and if he was telling Maya how his wife suspected nothing, how easy it was to fool me. During dinner, I watched him text someone secretly and knew it was her, my own sister. His phone was face down on the table, but every few minutes it would light up with a notification. He'd glance at it, smile slightly, then go back to eating his chicken and rice like everything was perfectly normal. You seem distracted, I said sweetly as, everything okay? Yeah, just work stuff, he lied easily. Nothing important. I wanted to grab that phone and throw it against the wall. I wanted to scream at him, to make him tell me the truth. But something stopped me. Some deeper instinct for survival kicked in. If I confronted him now, in this moment, with no proof and no plan, what would happen? He'd deny it. Maya would deny it. They'd gaslight me, make me feel crazy, tell me I was seeing things that weren't there. They'd probably be more careful, cover their tracks better. Maybe they'd even break it off for a while, wait for things to cool down, then start up again when they thought I'd forgotten. No, I needed to be smarter than that. I decided right then that I wouldn't confront them until I had a plan. I would smile. I would play the loving wife and the devoted sister. I would let them think they were winning. And while they celebrated their deception, I would gather every piece of evidence I needed to destroy them both, gathering my weapons. That night, I waited until Daniel fell asleep. He always slept deeply, especially after a glass of wine with dinner. I'd made sure he had too. At 2 a.m, I carefully slid his phone off the nightstand. My heart pounded so hard I was sure it would wake him up, but he just rolled over and kept snoring softly. I started checking Daniel's phone while he slept every single night. I already knew his passcode. He'd never kept it secret from me before. Why would he? I was his wife, his partner, the person he was supposed to trust most in the world, the person he was supposed to be faithful to. The irony made me sick. I took his phone into the bathroom, closed the door quietly, and sat on the edge of the tub. My hands shook as I opened his messages. There was a contact labeled Mike, work. I knew instantly it wasn't Mike from work. I tapped it open. The messages made me want to throw up. Can't stop thinking about this afternoon from yesterday. You looked so beautiful. Missing you already, from him. Same time tomorrow? I hate lying to her, from Maya, but I can't give you up. Soon, from Daniel. We'll tell her soon, I promise. I found hundreds of messages between them going back 8 months. 8 months? They'd been doing this for 8 months while I smiled and cooked dinner and went to work and lived my life like everything was fine. I scrolled back through the messages, reading everything. The messages started sweet and innocent. Thanks for helping me move that furniture, from Maya. Anytime, that's what family is for, from Daniel. Then they got flirtier, more personal, more intimate. You understand me better than anyone, he'd written in July. I've always loved you, she'd replied. Is that terrible? Not if I love you too, he'd responded. My sister, my own sister, had told my husband she loved him. And he'd said it back. I kept reading, tears streaming silently down my face. They talked about me in those messages, about how guilty they felt, about how they never meant for it to happen, about how they were going to tell me the truth when the time was right. Then I found the message that made everything clear. I read their plans to tell me after his promotion came through next month. Daniel was up for a big promotion at his company in December. More money, better title, corner office. Once that happened, he planned to divorce me and move in with Maya. They'd already discussed it, already planned out their future together. My future wasn't part of their equation. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to a secret email account I created right there in my bathroom at 3 a.m. Every message. Every photo they'd sent each other. Every I love you and I miss you and can't wait to see you again. My hands were steadier now. The crying had stopped. Something cold and hard had settled in my chest where my heart used to be. When I was done, I deleted the sent emails from his phone so he wouldn't know what I'd done. I cleared the history. I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it. Daniel was still sleeping peacefully when I climbed back into bed next to him. He had no idea that his whole world was about to come crashing down. The next morning, I called a divorce lawyer and a private investigator the very next morning. I used my maiden name and paid in cash. Nobody could know what I was planning. Not yet. The sister's confession. I waited 3 days before I called Maya. 3 days of playing normal, of kissing Daniel goodbye in the mornings and pretending nothing was wrong. 3 days of gathering evidence and meeting with lawyers and planning my revenge. Maya, I said brightly when she answered. I miss you. Want to grab lunch today? I invited Maya to lunch and acted like nothing had changed between us. She hesitated for just a second, probably wondering if she had plans with Daniel, then agreed. I'd love that. Haven't seen you in forever. We met at our favorite cafe downtown, the one with the outdoor patio and the amazing sandwiches. Maya arrived wearing a new dress I'd never seen before. I wondered if Daniel had bought it for her. You look amazing, babe, I said, hugging her. It took everything in me not to push her away. Thanks, you too. She smiled that same smile I'd known my whole life. My baby sister. The girl I'd protected and defended and loved unconditionally. The girl who was sleeping with my husband. We ordered lunch and talked about nothing, the weather, her job, some show she was watching. I watched her lie to my face about being busy and dating someone new. There's this guy I've been seeing, she said casually. Nothing serious yet, but he's really sweet. That's wonderful, I said, smiling. What's his name? Mark, she said quickly. You don't know him, Mark. She'd named her fake boyfriend Mark. The lies came so easily to her. I asked if she'd ever betray me, and she swore she never would. You know you're the most important person in my life, right? I said, reaching across the table to take her hand. We've always been there for each other, no matter what. Maya squeezed my hand, and I saw something flicker in her eyes. Guilt, maybe, or fear. Of course, she said. I'd never do anything to hurt you. You're my sister, my best friend. And you'd tell me if something was wrong, right? If there was something I needed to know? She pulled her hand back and grabbed her water glass. Of course I would. Why? Is everything okay with you and Daniel? I smiled sweetly and told her I knew everything, every single detail. Actually, Maya, everything is not okay with me and Daniel, because I know what you've been doing. The color drained from her face. What? I went to your apartment on Thursday. I saw him there. I saw you touching him. I saw the wine. I saw everything. I watched the color drain from her face as her world collapsed around her. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Rebecca, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain how you've been sleeping with my husband for 8 months? Can you explain how you looked me in the eye over and lied to me? Can you explain how you're my sister and you did this to me? Tears started rolling down her cheeks. It just happened, she whispered. We didn't mean for it to happen. You didn't mean for it to happen 8 months ago? Or 8 months ago when it started and you decided to keep doing it every single day since then? Please, Rebecca, please, listen. I read your messages, all of them. I know about your plans to tell me after his promotion. I know you've been in my house, sitting at my table, eating my food while you were sneaking around with him. I know everything. Maya was sobbing now, mascara running down her face. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. No, you're not, I said calmly. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. I stood up, threw money on the table for my untouched sandwich, and walked away. Behind me, I could hear her crying and calling my name. I didn't look back. The confrontation, I came home early the next day. Daniel's car was in the driveway, which was strange. He should have been at work. I used my key quietly and stepped inside. I found Daniel packing a bag in our bedroom. Clothes were scattered on the bed, his favorite jeans, several shirts, his nice shoes. He was humming softly to himself, completely unaware that I was standing in the doorway watching him. Going somewhere? I asked. He jumped and spun around, guilt written all over his face. Oh, hey babe, you scared me. I didn't hear you come in. I can see that. What are you doing? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Just packing for a quick trip. My parents want me to visit this weekend. Dad's birthday, remember? I told him I knew he was going to Maya's apartment instead tonight. Your dad's birthday isn't until March, Daniel. Try again. The smile disappeared. What? I know where you're really going. I know everything about you and Maya, about all of it. I watched him stammer and try to explain like I was stupid or blind. Rebecca, I don't know what you think you saw, but I saw you with her, in her apartment, through the window, drinking wine, touching her, being intimate with my sister. His face went pale. It's not. We weren't. Don't, I said, my voice sharp as broken glass. Don't you dare lie to me anymore. I'm done with your lies. I threw the printed screenshots at his feet and told him to get out. They scattered across the bedroom floor, dozens of pages of messages between him and Maya. Love confessions, plans to leave me, pictures they'd sent each other, everything. Daniel stared at the papers like they were going to bite him. How did you? Your phone. Every night while you slept next to me, thinking you were so clever, thinking I was so stupid. I read every message. I know about your promotion plan. I know you were going to wait until December to tell me so you'd have your new salary before the divorce. I know everything. I recorded everything he said as he finally admitted the whole ugly truth. I had my phone in my pocket, recording app running. My lawyer had told me to get a confession if I could. Admissible evidence, he'd called it. Okay, Daniel said quietly, running his hands through his hair. Okay, yes, it's true. Maya and I have been seeing each other. But Rebecca, you have to understand, it just happened. We didn't plan it. We connected on a deeper level. She understands me in a way that I don't, I finished for him. Is that what you were going to say? That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk to me about fair? You slept with my sister for 8 months. You lied to me every single day. You made plans to divorce me and move in with her. And you want to talk about fair? He sat down on the edge of our bed, the bed we'd shared for 5 years, and put his head in his hands. I love her, he said quietly. I'm sorry, but I do. I love her. Those words hurt more than anything else. Not that he'd cheated, not that he'd lied, but that he'd actually fallen in love with her. That this wasn't just some stupid affair, that he'd chosen her over me. Get out, I said. Get out of my house right now. Rebecca, get out. Pack your bag and leave. Go to her. Go to Maya. Go live your happy little life together. But know this, you're both going to pay for what you've done to me. He looked up at me with red eyes. What does that mean? I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. You'll see. The family fracture. After Daniel left, I sat in my empty house and stared at my phone. I needed to call my parents. They needed to know what their daughter had done, what both of them had done. I called my parents and told them what Maya and Daniel had done. Mom answered on the second ring. Sweetheart, how are you? Not good, Mom. I need to tell you something. Is Dad there? Can you put me on speaker? Of course. What's wrong? I told them everything. About seeing Maya and Daniel through the window, about the messages I'd found, about the 8 months of lies and betrayal, about their plans to wait until December to tell me. I watched my mother cry and my father's face turn red with rage. I couldn't see them through the phone, but I could hear it. Mom's sobs, Dad's heavy breathing, the long silence that followed my story. I don't believe it, Mom finally said. Maya wouldn't. She couldn't. She did, Mom. I have proof. Hundreds of messages. I saw them together. That son of a bitch, Dad growled. I'll kill him. I swear to God, Dad, please. I just need you to know. I need you to understand that this is real, that I'm not making it up or exaggerating. Of course you're not, sweetheart, Dad said. We believe you. I can't believe Maya would do this to you. Her own sister. Neither could I, but she had. I listened to Maya call me 50 times, but I never picked up once. My phone rang and rang and rang. Text messages flooded in. Please talk to me. Let me explain. I'm so sorry. Please, Rebecca. I love you. I never meant to hurt you. I blocked her number after the 50th call. I couldn't listen to her excuses anymore. I couldn't hear her say she was sorry when sorry would never be enough. That afternoon, a locksmith came to the house. I changed all the locks and moved Daniel's things onto the front lawn. Everything he'd left behind. His clothes, his books, his golf clubs, his stupid collection of baseball cards. I piled it all in garbage bags and dumped it on the grass. If he wanted it, he could come get it. But he couldn't come inside. Not anymore. This was my house now. Neighbors came out to watch. Mrs. Peterson from next door asked if everything was okay. I smiled and said, just taking out the trash. My phone rang. It was Daniel. I didn't answer. He called 5 more times. Then Maya called from a different number. Then Daniel again. I turned off my phone. I felt my family breaking apart, but I refused to be the one who suffered. They had made their choices. They had decided that their selfish desires were more important than loyalty, than family, than me. Now they could live with the consequences. That night, I drank an entire bottle of wine by myself and cried one more time. I cried for the family I'd lost, for the sister who betrayed me, for the marriage that ended in lies, for the life I'd thought I was building. Then I dried my tears, threw away the empty bottle, and started planning phase 2 of my revenge. The price of betrayal. Monday morning, I filed for divorce. My lawyer had everything ready, all the evidence, all the documentation, all the proof of Daniel's infidelity. In Oregon, adultery didn't automatically give me everything, but it helped. It helped a lot. I filed for divorce and demanded everything in the settlement negotiations. The house, since I'd put down the down payment with money from my grandmother, half of his retirement account, alimony, since I'd supported him through graduate school. His lawyer tried to negotiate, but I had too much evidence. The messages, the photos, the confession I'd recorded. Daniel had no choice but to give me what I wanted, but I wasn't done. I sent the evidence to Daniel's boss. I packaged up the most damning messages, the ones where Daniel talked about lying to clients to sneak out early to see Maya, the ones where he'd lied about sick days to spend time with her, and I mailed them to his company's HR department with a polite note explaining the situation. I watched him lose his promotion forever. The promotion he'd been working toward for 2 years, the promotion he'd wanted so badly he was willing to wait for it before destroying our marriage. I heard from a friend who worked at his company that they'd passed him over and given the position to someone else. He was lucky they didn't fire him entirely. I told everyone we knew exactly what they'd done to me and why. I didn't hide. I didn't feel ashamed. I posted on social media, not the explicit messages, but enough. After 8 months of lying and betrayal, I've discovered my husband and my sister have been having an affair. I'm heartbroken, but moving forward. Thank you to everyone who has supported me through this difficult time. The responses flooded in. Shock, outrage, support. Messages from friends who'd known us as a couple, messages from Maya's friends who couldn't believe she'd done such a thing. Daniel's coworkers and college friends reaching out to say they were sorry. They had no idea. They couldn't believe he'd do something like that. I watched Maya lose her friends and her reputation in our small community. Portland isn't as big as people think. Word spread fast. The girl who slept with her sister's husband, the homewrecker, the backstabber. People stopped inviting her to parties. Her friends ghosted her. Someone wrote about it on a local forum. And even though they didn't use names, everyone knew who they were talking about. I felt powerful, knowing they would pay for every lie they ever told. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about justice, about consequences, about making sure they understood that actions have prices. Daniel called me one last time. "You've destroyed my life," he said. "Was it worth it?" "You destroyed your own life," I replied calmly. "I just made sure everyone knew what kind of person you really are." "I loved you once," he said. "Before all this, I really did love you." "Maybe, but you loved yourself more. You both did." I hung up and blocked his number too. Rising from the ashes 6 months later, my divorce was final. I sold the house. Too many memories, too much pain, and bought a smaller place in a different neighborhood. A fresh start. New walls that had never seen Daniel walk through them. New rooms where Maya had never sat. I sold the house and moved to a new neighborhood for a fresh start. The Alberta Arts District, full of young families and artists and people who didn't know my story. People who saw me as just Rebecca, not that woman whose husband cheated with her sister. I blocked both of them on everything and refused all contact forever. Email, phone, social media, everything. My lawyer handled all the remaining divorce paperwork, so I never had to speak to Daniel again. My parents tried to get me to reconcile with Maya. "She's your sister," Mom said. "Family is forever." "She stopped being my sister when she slept with my husband," I replied. Some things can't be forgiven. Eventually, Mom stopped asking. Dad never did. He'd been on my side from the beginning. I started therapy and learned to trust myself again after the betrayal. Dr. Martinez helped me understand that what happened wasn't my fault, that I hadn't failed as a wife or a sister, that sometimes people make terrible choices, and those choices say nothing about your worth as a person. "You were loyal," Dr. Martinez told me. "You were loving. You were everything a wife and sister should be. They failed you, not the other way around." It took months to really believe that, to stop wondering what I could have done differently, to stop blaming myself for not seeing the signs sooner. But slowly I healed. I found new friends who showed me what real loyalty actually looks like. People who checked on me, who invited me to dinner, who celebrated my small victories and held my hand through the hard days. Sarah from work became my closest friend. She'd been through her own divorce and understood what I was going through. Betrayal is its own kind of grief, she told me over coffee one morning. You're not just losing people. You're losing who you thought they were, who you thought you were. Your whole story has to be rewritten. She was right. I was rewriting my story, and this new chapter wasn't about Daniel or Maya. It was about me. I started taking pottery classes on Tuesday nights. I joined a book club. I went hiking on weekends with my new friends. I laughed again, real laughs that came from my belly and made my eyes crinkle. One Sunday morning, I looked in the mirror and finally recognized the stronger woman staring back. She had lines around her eyes from stress, but also from smiling. She had gray hairs she hadn't noticed before. She looked tired, but peaceful, sad but hopeful. She looked like someone who'd survived something terrible and come out the other side. I thought about reaching out to Maya sometimes, late at night when I couldn't sleep, when I remembered being kids together, when I missed having a sister. But then I remembered her hand on Daniel's arm, her whisper in his ear, the 8 months of lies. Some betrayals are too deep to heal. I heard through Mom that Maya and Daniel were still together, living in a small apartment across town, that Daniel had taken a pay cut at a different company, that Maya had lost most of her friends, that they were trying to make it work. Good luck to them, they'd earned each other. As for me, I was doing more than surviving. I was living, really living for the first time in years. I'd learned that I was stronger than I ever knew, that I could stand on my own, that I didn't need anyone to complete me or define me or give my life meaning. I'd learned that betrayal reveals character, not just in the people who betray you, but in yourself. And when I looked in that mirror now, I liked the character I saw looking back at me. I was Rebecca Chen. I was 33 years old. I was a dental hygienist and a pottery student and a friend and a daughter. I was someone who'd been broken and put herself back together with her own 2 hands. I was someone who knew that family wasn't about blood. It was about loyalty, about showing up, about keeping promises, about love that doesn't come with conditions or betrayals. And someday, I'd find that kind of family again. The chosen kind, the kind that actually lasts. But for now, I was enough all by myself.